everyone, and welcome to Forecasting Your 20s, a deep dive into the stormy science behind everyday life in your 20s, and with a little dash of meteorology because, well, I love meteorology and I am such a weather nerd and it's interesting. My name is Emmy, I'm your host. Today we're tackling something I personally struggled with quite a bit throughout my life and growing up. I am currently 23, so I feel like I'm at the start of my 20s-ish, heading in towards the middle, so I've gained a lot of insight and learned a lot of things. I'm also another podcast advocate and lover, so I've listened to quite a bit of podcasts, read a lot of books and audiobooks about self-help and self-improvement, and just I'm generally interested in the science behind your 20s. But going back on what I was saying, what we were personally deep diving into today, because I totally just went past that. Today we're tackling something that a lot of people struggle with in their 20s, and that is friendships. It is a topic that is quite confronting for a lot of people, quite of a, I don't know how to put this, but like a topic that lots of people try and avoid to talk about and avoid to share their worries and fears about it, even though literally everyone is worried about it. That's something I thought no one was worried about. I only thought I was worried about. We're gonna deep dive into the science of maintaining friendships in your 20s and why it seems so hard to keep them in your 20s. And then we're also having a look at why weather actually matters on how your friendships go. So I'm really keen to dive straight into it. But first, I wanted to crack open a Coke Zero because it's that time of day where I need one. So I have been taking notes in my little notepad, which is so cute, by the way. It's got all these plants on it. I bought them years ago from Kmart, and I honestly just found it when I was moving house, and I was like, oh my gosh, great, I have a notebook I've never used, which is a bit sad to say, but you know, it happens. So let's just get straight into it. So I'm sure I'm not alone in the struggle of navigating friendships in your 20s. Let's face it, life in your 20s is very different to your teenage years and your childhood years, and it's quite difficult to adapt to that change out of high school and even university into what is adulthood. In this age bracket, there are a lot of changes that are happening like every day. There's hard decisions being made, there's lots of new experiences being done and also learnt, and just generally a lot of shifts and movements in everyone's life. You know, graduating from university or getting a new job, moving interstate, starting a family, getting married. There are so many changes and shifts that can impact how you maintain your friendships and how friendships generally grow and also maybe don't grow. Maintaining relationships with your family, friends, and even co-workers in the midst of all these changes and even personal changes is just plain difficult. You're not alone in wanting these friendships to continue to matter, to mean something to you. You're not alone in wanting to grasp these friendships and not lose them. I, for one, can say that I have tried desperately to maintain friendships that I've known are ending their course because we generally are just shifting different frequencies. We are moving into different areas of our life. And if you just keep trying to hold on to these people, you're restricting yourself from growing, and you're also potentially restricting them from growing. It's okay to understand that friendships, they do last for certain periods in your life, and I do recommend like just cherishing that fact. It is a beautiful fact that you can look back on a friendship and understand the meaning of it and how it impacted you in those certain years where you were really close. But besides that, let's get back into it. Let's get into some facts. So a fact that shocked me and still shocks me to this day is how long it actually takes to build friendships as an adult. So research found that it takes about 74 hours of quality time to form a casual friendship. And get this, over 200 hours to build deep friendships. So that's a lot of hours and a lot of time to scrounge in your day-to-day life to maintain these friendships and even get new ones. Like, the thought of getting new ones and putting all that effort in the midst of everything I'm doing right now is actually absurd, and I don't know how anyone does it. I really want to reiterate the fact that you're not alone, and a lot of people are struggling with this in their 20s, even though it is a topic no one wants to touch on. So we're gonna have a little deep dive into brain chemistry, a little bit of science, and into how weather can impact your friendships. First of all, let's talk basics. Why do friendships feel like they're in and out within your 20s? So normal developmental changes can put a strain on old friendships and make it really hard to form new ones. Especially social media makes this significantly worse. Social media is basically an illusion. You go online and you see all these friends hanging out with so many people, and you sit in your room alone and you think, I don't have this many people. And then you start going down this overthinking track of, oh, let me count how many people I actually can contact and call a friend. And then you start counting, and then you go, oh no, I don't think that's enough. And then you go back on Instagram and another person has posted like this big group of friends they're hanging out with, and you go, wow, like I don't have that. And it's like a spiral that goes completely out of control. It is important to remember that social media is an illusion. Social media is what people want other people to see. A lot of people's posts are not the truth. Someone can post their 5+ friend group but actually despise the people in it. Someone can post having a massive party with all these friends, but they really only talk to one person out of that group. Someone can post having their time of their life, going to all these events with all these people, but they actually just want to stay at home. Like, you never know the life of someone, and to try not beat yourself up over seeing all these people. I know it's easier said than done, because I frankly still do it to this day, but it's something just to be aware of before we head into just talking about friendships and the science behind it. I don't want you guys to listen to this and be like, okay, cool, like I understand, and then you go on your Instagram and a story pops up and you fall through that trap again. Overthinking and stress and stuff like that is going to be in a complete other episode, so I'm not going to touch too much about it. So heading back into the science, back in the 90s, there was an anthropologist named Robin Dunbar, and he proposed what is called now Dunbar's number. It's basically that our brains can only handle about 150 stable relationships at one time. And I know 150 seem like a lot. Even when I was doing this research and I saw the 150, I was like, wow, that's a crazy amount. I can't imagine me having, I can't even count 150 people, like that's wild. But it does break down into further layers. The layers are 5 inner circle people. So these are your really super close people. I would say your best friends, even potentially like your siblings, if you count them as your best friend. I for sure do. Then it goes into 15 good friends that you can confide in. So you can reach out, actually tell them about personal stuff in your life, and they will help you. Then you've got 50 casual buddies. So these are probably people you see every month, or like not every month, every 6 months. I may be at a party, but you guys can talk and you're on good terms, but you don't really share that much about yourself, any personal stuff. And then you've got the outer 150 acquaintances. If you think about it, this kind of makes sense. It's why your Instagram has like 500 followers, but you only grab coffee with a very small handful. So it actually does make sense. Again, 150 does seem like a lot, but that is like the maximum number that your brain can handle and maintain these sort of relationships with people and friendships. The 5 super close people, that is quite interesting to me, because I've always beaten myself up for having about 5 or less like really close people I can confide in. But then obviously when you think about it, Dunbar was like, yo, 5 is actually like the perfect number for people that you're super close with, and that's really what your brain can handle. Your 20s is a different time. It is a prime time for friendship turnover. There's so much research and just people posting on Reddit and Instagram threads and TikTok all saying how friendships really see this big shift when you head into your 20s. And like I mentioned before, your 20s is all about transitions. So lots of people graduating, lots of people are starting new careers, maybe even relocating states, countries, other side of the world, hemispheres. Like, there are a lot of changes happening that can impact the depth and quality of friendships that people have. Research from the Netherlands Organization for Scientific Research definitely backs this fact up. They found that friendships turn over every 7 years on average. So if you've had a friendship for longer than 7 years, congratulations, you've made it past this kind of research that they found. Not saying that 7 years is like the maximum and then it's like goodbye friend. It's very common for friendships to turn over every 7 years due to these changes that are happening. The specific point of this research was looking to young adulthood, and they actually found that in young adulthood, this friendship turnover of 7 years is faster because of these priority shifts. You're not just hanging out for fun anymore. You're building networks that align with your goals. You're literally naturally pruning out these superficial ties. You are looking for people that align with your goals. You're looking for people that maybe align with your career that you're wanting to enter. You're networking. I know going into my 20s, networking was such a big thing. Like, everyone was like, you should network, go to this event, go meet people that you want to go into a career with. And now that I'm 23, I know I'm still young, but I honestly understand, because jobs and getting the career you want actually works through interacting with people in that field. That is, again, a whole nother topic, but it is literal true fact. Like, we can't deny that 20s is very networking. Friendships can change because of that. There was studies that showed in your late teens and early 20s, about 1 to 4% of social connection changes every year, and that is higher than even in older adults. One report from Finland actually found that right after your mid-20s, which I haven't hit yet, nevertheless this is interesting, your social circle actually starts shrinking. You'll lose touch with half your friends due to jobs or moves or life pulling you in different directions. Only about 30% of your closest friends stick around after 7 years. So this is like what we mentioned before, but this other research really confirms that fact. In general, your 20s can feel very lonely. I definitely understand, and I definitely am sympathetic to a lot of people. This is why I wanted to start off my podcast with this topic, why I wanted to record this video and really start just talking and researching. I really just felt for my younger self, I felt for myself this year and last year, and probably I feel for future me. Let's actually go into why. Let's get biological and see why exactly our brains are making this happen in our 20s. When you're sitting with a friend, having a coffee, you're not just having a conversation. There are a lot of other stuff happening and coming to play. And specifically, biological things are happening and coming to play. There is this love hormone, or what people call the cuddle chemical. It's our friend oxytocin. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this chemical, this hormone. A lot of people who have studied psychology will probably be able to explain oxytocin a bit more better than I can, but I'm just sticking with the basics. I'm going to explain exactly what's happening. This little chemical gets released when you hug, when you laugh with friends, or when you share a meaningful chat over coffee. And it doesn't have to be coffee, I'm just adding that in because that's a very common experience lots of people have. And it strengthens your social bonds by boosting trust and empathy. Studies show that oxytocin reduces anxiety in social situations and makes it easier to open up and form deeper connections. So it's kind of like nature's glue for your relationships. You're strengthening your bonds by releasing this hormone, by having these deep connections and deep chats, and even hugging your friend, which I know a lot of people are adverse to that. I used to be, but it really does generate a deeper feeling, a deeper connection between your friends and potential lovers. Oxytocin plays a very key role in how we perceive and maintain bonds in romantic partners, but it also extends to friendships as well. So some research has found that oxytocin enhances positive social situations and interactions and even increases generosity. So think about that hug you had with a friend after you've had a really tough day. That feeling that you get when you hug them, that's oxytocin running through your system and reminding your brain, these people are my friends, I love these people. Like, oxytocin is just reminding you to keep forming these deeper connections with this person and that you guys really do connect. In your 20s though, oxytocin takes a bit of a hit. You've got a lot of stress in your 20s from, you know, studying or career change or so on. There's so much happening in your 20s that it makes maintaining friends and making friends so much harder. So it is important to try and get that oxytocin released and flowing when you're trying to make friends or when you're catching up with your friends. Maybe just reaching out for a video call, reaching out for a quick coffee if you're in the area, like making sure to maintain that connection with a friend, release that oxytocin hormone and generally that feel-good hormone that strengthens your connection. That is a way to try and maintain the friends that you don't want them to end up in the 70% of you losing after 7 years in your 20s, but just in general, because it does make you feel good in terms of the stress in your 20s and avoiding that. I am going to head into the twist that I promised, and that is why weather matters. So as a meteorology lover, enthusiast, future meteorologist, if I dare say, this is my favorite part. There is a lot of research, or not a lot of research, into meteorology. I don't know, there's both sides, but personally there's a lot of research into meteorology in terms of how weather works. There's only so little research into biometeorology, which is basically how meteorology affects biological things. That is so interesting, so I thought I'll do a little twist and add it into this little video. So it turns out that a forecast can seriously influence your friendships. It can influence your mood and obviously by extension of that, your friendships. There is something called seasonal affective disorder, or we'll call it SAD for short. It is a type of depression that is linked with seasons and season changes, and especially really peaks in winter. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of winter blues, and actually it is a thing. Symptoms include having very low energy, oversleeping, and crucially social withdrawal. So it's kind of like you feel like hibernating, being a little bear, staying in your room and avoiding people just in general. You look outside, you see it's raining, cloudy, and you go, I know I was supposed to go out and have pizza with this group of people. I don't want to anymore. I'm going to make up that I'm feeling unwell and not go to the plan. And if you consistently keep doing this over winter, your connections with these people are going to take a hit. Unfortunately, that's the truth. If you're not pushing yourself out of your limits, your friendships and your connections and the things that you want to get, if you're avoiding them, they won't happen. Research from the National Institute of Mental Health shows that the seasonal affective disorder actually hits harder in young adults. Why does seasonal affective disorder happen? It links with the less sunlight that we get in the winter seasons. Lower sunlight means lower vitamin D levels, and vitamin D levels is linked with your serotonin production. Serotonin, if you don't know, is the feel-good chemical. It's what increases your happiness, increases your mood, and therefore increases your want to socialize. So vitamin D deficiency can actually amp up anxiety and depression and reduce your motivation to socialize in general. So studies do confirm low vitamin D impacts your recovery from mood dips. So if you've had something hit you really hard, you've had a tough day, lower vitamin D levels, less sunlight, it's harder for you to get up that hill and push through, which, like I mentioned before, if you don't push through, you will impact your connections over winter, which is a very common theme that I've experienced I'm not sure about other people, but it seems to be something that a lot of people experience as well. Cloudy, rainy days, you're more likely to bail on plans, look outside, be like, hell no, I ain't driving in this rain, I ain't driving in this wind. I personally hate gusts and strong winds, so whenever that's happening outside, I really don't want to step outside. And literally, as I'm recording this, yesterday I nearly bailed on plans just because it was super windy outside. It's winter in Australia, so I feel like I am slightly going through sad right now. It's actually tough that I'm talking about it and I'm literally living it, so it's kind of a reminder for me to be like, hey, this is why I'm feeling this way. This is what I could do. It's not just meteorology. As I mentioned before, biometeorology shows the weather's impact on humans, and it does show that temperature swings and changes can affect your behavior and your mood as well. So high heat can increase aggression and reduce positive interactions socially, while sunny days can spike happiness and life satisfaction. You want to go outside, you want to have that picnic, you're like messaging your friends, you're like, hey, let's go to the beach, let's do that. Like, such an apparent reason why in summer we are so much happier and we want to make these friendships and these connections, and we want to foster them, we want to water those plants. A study using online diaries found that seasons do play a role in your overall well-being, and especially in your 20s with your crazy life, your unstable routines, this can hit friendships hard. Hey, it's cold, what's the point in making plans? But there is a point, and the point is maintaining your friendships in your 20s, even though it's so hard. How do we apply this? Let's get into what you can do to try and maintain your friendships in your 20s. Try and deepen those connections. First, audit your circle. As we mentioned with the Dunbar's number, 5 super close people is pretty much what your brain can tolerate in terms of that level of closeness and friendship. This is for people who are trying to overexert themselves with friendships that they can't seem to invest that quality time in. Have a moment where you sit back and you think about the deepness and closeness of your friendships and what you can flower, what you can essentially, what plant you can water. Then boost your oxytocin with intentional acts. Oxytocin can be boosted through a lot of ways. If you want to research into it, I would highly recommend it. There are a lot of research into how you can boost your own oxytocin, but as I mentioned before, some intentional acts would be taking your friend out for a coffee date, having those deep meaningful chats, not just, hey, how was work? Like, talk about your wants and goals and I don't know, like all that fairy kind of stuff. Like, be deep, be intentional, and that oxytocin will start flowing. Or, you know, even have a hug. If you have a partner, hug them, spend quality time, don't just sit on the couch on your phone. Actually boost your oxytocin by having this quality time, having these quality experiences. Another way you can maintain your friendships or get out of that rut that happens in your 20s, combat your weather woes. So combat the seasonal affective disorder through winter by trying to get sunlight daily, at least 15 minutes. There's also light therapy if you wanted to have a research into that. I didn't deep dive into that at all. I just knew that that was an option. Yeah, get sunlight daily. Consider taking vitamin D supplements if your vitamin D levels are low over winter. But then again, I'm not a doctor. Please consult your doctor if you're looking into any sort of vitamins. They can direct you to the correct ones, or even if you need to take vitamin D. I don't know, this is an idea I kind of had, but track your moods with like an app or a notes app or something. I don't know whether you can use Notion to do that or like a bullet journal or anything, but try and see and track, does rainy days actually affect my mood and what I do? Do I try and avoid plans because it's shit weather outside, essentially? It would be a cool way to journal or keep this information so you can look back and be like, hey, I actually do avoid plans. So you can then make an action plan of how to avoiding plans when it's bad weather. It's a way to kind of analyze yourself and look into yourself and be like, what am I doing to inhibit these deep, meaningful connections in my 20s? Am I letting external forces impact my friendships? So just remember that friendships evolve, but with lots of effort and awareness of these factors and how you can minimize these changes that happen, you can maintain the friendships that you want to water, the friendships that really matter to you. Relationships are like weather systems. They shift every day, but forecasting can definitely help you prepare for the storms that might come. So that is a little wrap on the first episode of Forecasting Your 20s with your host, Emmy. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I apologize if it looks like I'm looking down on my notes. It's because it's a lot of research, a lot of writing, so it's not something I can just memorize and keep in my brain. But if today's episode really resonated with you, please drop a like and subscribe to my YouTube or my Spotify podcasts, and actually comment if seasonal affective disorder seems to impact you. Do you go through phases in winter where you just don't want to leave the house? And if you've got any tips, leave them down below. Also, I would love to know, because again, as it is just approaching out of winter in Australia, it's something I am really struggling with. I kind of want to know that I'm not alone, and maybe see how I can try to stop avoiding plans just because there's big gusts of wind outside. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure you stay connected and watch the forecast. I will catch you guys all soon.